like to lay on table the minutes of the committee meetings while considering the ministerial policy statement for the agricultural sector for 2021-2022. I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members of the committee.
Committee on Health.
Right, Honorable Speaker and members, I beg to lay the report of the Sectoral Committee of Health on the Ministerial Policy Statement and Budget Estimates for the financial year 2021-2022. Madam Speaker and members, I also beg to lay the minutes of the committee interactions with the sector on the same. I beg to lay.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the committee.
Committee on Physical Infrastructure.
Physical infrastructure. Go to the next one.
Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development.
Madam Speaker, I would like to send apology of Committee of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We shall be ready tomorrow to lay our report. We had something to be reconciled with the Budget Committee.
Okay, go to the next.
Committee on Natural Resources.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the Committee of Environment and Natural Resources, I'd like to lay the report on the ministerial statement of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development and the Ministry of Water and Environment. The committee report together with the means of our interaction with the agencies.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, members of the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources.
Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs.
Madam Speaker, I'm standing in for Honorable Amure Doreen, who is attending a classified meeting together with the Budget Committee. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay a report of the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs on the Ministerial Policy Statement and Budget Estimates for financial year 2021-2022, together with the minutes. I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members of the Defense and Internal Affairs Committee.
Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation.
I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I'd like to lay the report of the Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation on the Innovation, Technology Development and Transfer Program, the Ministerial Policy Statement and Budget Estimates for the financial year 2021-2022, together with the minutes. I beg to name.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation.
Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs.
Right Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the chairperson of the committee, we beg that we lay our report, the report of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee tomorrow. I beg. Thank you.
Okay. I saw infrastructure. I think the Chair of Infrastructure is ready now.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay a report of the Committee on Physical Infrastructure on the budget estimates and the sector ministerial policy statements for financial year 2021-2022, which takes care of the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development and the Ministry of Works and Transport. Attached hereto are the minutes of the meeting that considered the report. I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members of the Committee of Physical Infrastructure. Now, Honourable members, under Rule 148, we are expected to consider these sectoral reports and then send them to the Budget Committee, but this is not feasible in the circumstances because we are supposed to consider them and send them to the Budget Committee not later than 30th of April each financial year. I want to propose that one of the members move that we suspend Rule 148, Sub-Rule 2, so that the reports can go straight to the Budget Committee, because we are not in a position to fulfill the timelines under the Public Finance Management Act. The days would expire after Parliament has also expired. Can we ask the Committee on Legal to prepare to move for that suspension? You could do it tomorrow when you bring your reports. I think let's ask the Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs that they'll move a motion tomorrow to suspend Rule 148-2, which requires that we debate the reports here and then send them to the Budget Committee so that they can go straight to the Budget Committee. Yes, Honorable Jova.
Much obliged, Right Honorable Speaker.
Okay, Honorable members, they are sent to the Budget Committee, but the formal motion will be moved tomorrow when the final reports are brought. Thank you very much. Next item.
Item 6 on the order paper, Bill second reading, the National Climate Change Bill 2020.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the bill entitled the National Climate Change Bill 2020 be read for the second time.
No, Minister, we had already moved that. There was some consultation we asked you to do with the Attorney General. That's what you are supposed to report on. You had already moved for the second reading.
Madam
Just
Speaker,
give us the update from the consultations.
Yes, we did a consultation. I need to report, Right Honorable Speaker. I wanted to give the title. We had no disagreement, and my chair of the climate change is here with us, and I would request that he comes and makes that report. We don't have any disagreement. We agreed, we consulted as you directed, Right Honorable Speaker, and we are here to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, the Honorable Ministers and the members. I'm here to clarify on the concerns that were raised when the bill was read for the second time. And at that time, I gave the report of the committee and all the minutes were laid on table. Concern number one was whether when Uganda signed and ratified the international convention, protocols, and the treaties, whether there were some reservations. For your information, Uganda signed the Kyoto Protocol on 25th of March 2002 and ratified the same document on the 8th of July 2015. And then Uganda also signed the UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, on the 8th of June 1992 and ratified on 22nd September 1992. And then the Paris Agreement was signed by Uganda on 22nd of April 2016 and ratified the same document on 21st of September 2016. When you look at all those documents signed and ratified by Uganda, the concern on whether there was reservation or not in signing and ratifying, the Kyoto Protocol, Article 26, clearly indicates that there was no reservation on the side of Uganda. The UNFCCC, Article 24, indicates clearly there was no reservation. And the Paris Agreement clearly indicates there was no reservation in Article 27. So what does it mean? It means that we have accepted those documents and we need to come back home and domesticate them. But above all, the domestication must be done in the local context of Uganda. Fortunately, in the UNFCCC, the agreement was that the parties to the convention have a common but differentiated responsibilities. That means each party to the convention, depending on her capabilities and level of socio-economic development, will have to make their own laws, which are locally in the context of the country, depending on their level of socio-economic development. And that is exactly what Uganda government has done with this bill, and the bill is in the local context of Uganda. And then the bill came up with 32 clauses. All the clauses are in the local context of Uganda. Even without signing or ratifying those conventions, we would go ahead and work on a law to address climate change in the country. Fortunately, it came after the ratification, so the bill is going to help us to address climate change in the country. Another concern was on clause 4.1 and 2. Should we leave it in the current form in the bill? From the background I've explained, we have to leave clause 4.1 and 2 in the bill as it is. Why? The relevance is this, that Uganda will only pick relevant laws that are relevant to the socio-economic development of the countries. And the best way to do it is to have that exemption indicated in clause 4.1 and 2. Number 2, it is better to be broader. There are some things we would want to list, that the following are the things we want to do, the following we cannot do. We have a likelihood that we are likely to leave some very important aspects that may become relevant to Uganda. So it is better to be broader. And the only way to be broader is to cater for that clause 4.1 and 2. And then in the conventions, there are two parties. There is the party of developed countries party and developing countries parties. And each have obligations. But we went ahead, we said we don't want only to fulfill the obligation. In this bill, we went ahead to say we also want to fulfill the obligation, but also get the benefits from signing and ratifying these conventions. And now the two parties are in negotiations. So there could be some issues that will emerge, and those benefits and obligation must be also come to Uganda. So the clause, the way we see it, is very sufficient to address the concerns in the climate change. Another obligation on the developed country side is that the developed countries are supposed to generate $100 billion to address climate change in developing countries, including Uganda. And that is an obligation put on the developed countries. but the benefits are coming to developing countries, including Uganda. So being a party and domesticating that will bring that benefit. Moreover, Uganda has already benefited from that agreement without even having the law locally on the Green Climate Fund, where we got about $24 million to address the wetland issues in Uganda. So being a party to that gives us a good position to get resources to finance climate change challenges in the country. And another concern was whether this was an importation of a law and then imposing it on Uganda. The answer is no, it was not importation. It is the normal process of domestication of laws. And examples of that already ratified by Uganda is the Rome Statute. Of course, that is the ICC Act. It was done also in the same format with exemption that we put clauses that can exempt Uganda on things which are not relevant to Uganda. Therefore, with this background, I wanted to clarify on that. But there was also a concern raised by a member on whether there is a difference between the National Environment Act and the Climate Change Act. There is a clear difference when you look at the objects of the bill. The National Environment Act addresses the principles of environmental management. The National Environment Act is focusing more on conservation. The Act is focusing more on the management of natural resources, and the convention linked to natural resources, to the Environment Act, to do with United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, the CBD. And the object of the bill is unique. And when you look at the regulation of the National Environment Regulation, there is no mention of climate change in that document. Then, when you come on the climate change side, climate change bill is addressing reduction of greenhouse gases. There are so many sources of greenhouse gases, and we want to reduce that, and we made that in our NDC, the Nationally Determined Contribution, which is a commitment made by Uganda after the Paris Agreement that we are going to do all we can to address climate change in the country by reducing greenhouse gases. And this is where the bill is focusing. And this is also in line with our Vision 2040, NDP 3, and also other document strategies we have developed, like the Green Growth Strategy for Uganda, the RED plus Readiness Strategy for Uganda. So the climate change bill is more linked to the UNFCCC, the Kyoto Protocol, the Paris Agreement, which Uganda accepted, signed and ratified. Then the bill is also important because there are other emerging issues like the carbon trade, carbon emission trading. This bill is addressing that because Uganda has to benefit from the carbon emission trading. Like the European Union have the European Union trading systems, and we need our own emission trading here. There are people who want to plant trees for carbon. And you know, we have land shortage in this country, and the population is growing. On average, smallholder farmers have only 2 acres of land. And so if they sacrifice 1 acre to plant trees to absorb carbon dioxide under carbon trade, we need to negotiate good money to be paid to this owner of land so that he or she can use that money for alternative income generating business and leaving the trees for a longer time. But also this person who wants to plant tree may not have money to do that. That's why we are proposing that we must have a climate change fund so that anyone who wants to plant tree, whether under carbon or for business, should be having to access to some money which is not having tedious procedure to access. So these emerging issues like carbon emission trading is very important, and it is catered for under this bill. But also we have trees in the national parks, in the protected area, that are also absorbing carbon dioxide. Uganda is not getting money from that, apart from getting money from tourism. Why can't we also quantify those emissions so that we know that these natural trees in the parks are also absorbing carbon dioxide? Why can't we be paid for it and we use the money for environmental restoration? this is still an area where Uganda needs to negotiate with these parties. And then, this bill will help Uganda to develop what we call the low carbon development pathways. Many countries are doing that already, but Uganda also want to take the low carbon development pathway. That's why we developed the green growth strategy and the RED plus readiness strategy. But this low carbon development pathway should make Uganda at a certain time achieve what we call the net zero emissions to greenhouse gases. Above all, this bill is supposed to help Uganda become resilient to the climate change effects. It should help Uganda to adapt and also mitigate some of the effects. And when you look at the policy, the environment, the climate change policy of 2015, this was a concern raised by a member, whether we have a climate change policy. Yes, we have. 2015, Uganda developed climate change policy, and it supports this bill. And in that policy, it was recommended that we should have a robust institutional framework that can help to address climate change in Uganda. It also urged Uganda to enact an overarching standalone legal framework. And this climate change bill is the standalone legal framework supported by the climate change policy. But above all, this bill also gives climate change prominence in our negotiations, and also climate change being a cross-cutting issue, we need coordination. There are many efforts we are doing, scattered, Ministry of Water and Environment, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Works, Ministry of Agriculture, and almost all the ministries are doing something to address climate change, but the efforts are scattered. So this bill will help us to address that in a very coordinated way. And then, when you look at the water policy of 1999, the environment policy, the National Environment Act of 1994, the energy of 2002, the Energy Act, the Renewable Energy Policy of 2007, the forestry, that is the National Forestry and Tree Planting Act of 2001, the health policy, the National Adaptation Plan of Action of 2007, the oil and gas of policy of 2008, the Disaster Management Bill of Act of 2010, and the NARO, the National Agricultural Research Act of 2005, the Physical Planning Act of 2010, the Uganda National Meteorological Authority Act of 2012, the Land Act of 2004, the National Planning Authority Act of 2002, all these are not adequately addressing climate change, and yet climate change is cross-cutting. So this law is needed for prioritization of climate change, for easy governance, for coordination, for direction, for consolidation of the scattered efforts, but above all, to generate climate change financing locally and beyond Uganda. Okay. These are the clarifications I wanted to make as far as the reading of the report of the committee is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Those are the clarifications, the issues raised after the report was presented. Are there members who have comments? Yes. Honourable Sereko? Chivumbi? Lo? 3 minutes, then Timuzibu.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I would like to commend the committee for such a wonderful report, and I would like to applaud this august House for having given them time and resources to invest in this research and even further do that benchmarking that we hear some people are not interested in, but which we definitely know has a lot of benefit towards our countrymen. The world is moving in a new phase world over, where it is investing heavily in reduction of greenhouse emissions and in controlling the flow of carbon in the environment. I would like to thank you for presenting this law from the Ministry of Environment. We would like to commend you because it was long overdue. Our neighbors in Kenya, last year alone, benefited over $900 million, privately and through government. We have a lot of plant and forest cover that help a lot in the reduction of carbon emissions that are emitted from all over the world. The belt of Africa, from the Congo, Brazzaville, Gabon, in the equatorial belt alone, plus the Amazon, account for 70% of what they grab from the world's carbon that is emitted. Therefore, the big powers that are producing a lot from their countries like China and others have to pay something more, because we do a lot as what we call the third world in helping purify the air of this world for the world to have a lot of oxygen. What I would like to add is that if we have a leverage, let's call upon our countrymen and rally them that every single person that has an empty land, there is a budget for you to plant trees. And if you restore them and preserve them for a given number of years, this is what you have to earn. And for plan approvals in city authorities, for areas where we have cities, if we want to restore every tree that is cut down, let us make it mandatory for every plan to be approved. At least someone should have about 4 trees planted in their homestead. In so doing, we shall be restoring plant cover, but we shall also be protecting the environment and contributing to what we call the carbon bank of the nation. We must discuss what the carbon bank is and what Uganda trades on the carbon market of the whole world. I know the whole world is sitting right now and leaders are convening to discuss this matter. Please take priority so that Uganda gets its leverage. For every single tree, for every single emissions that we help this world to purify the air, we must have an equal share. And those that are emitting more must pay more. Then this must also go to the companies that are producing, Right Honorable Speaker. Factories, companies in the corporate social responsibility section, they must pay something for those that take part in the restoration of the environment, so that farmers,